Hey guys, today's episode of Sports Spectrum's podcast is presented by our friends at Compassion International. We love what Compassion stands for, what they're all about, releasing children from poverty in Jesus' name. Now, I've gotten to know their president, Jimmy Mayato, pretty well and see him at a few conferences that we're both at. And I got to tell you, he is as passionate a leader about helping to alleviate global poverty as anyone I've ever met. And all you got to do is listen to him talk for a few minutes and you realize that there is a real problem across the world with global poverty and how it affects children. And that's where Compassion comes in. And I love what Compassion is all about. It's why my family sponsors a child with Compassion, because we know what that means. That means giving a child who otherwise might be stuck in poverty forever, giving that child a chance, providing them with food and education and medical care and vocational training. It's all done in Jesus' name, introducing these children to the gospel of Jesus Christ because of your generous support. So go consider sponsoring a child. Go pray about it, and then maybe take that risk, take that leap. I promise you, you won't regret it. Go check out compassion.com/sportsspectrum. You'll see a list of children there, and pray about sponsoring a child today. Compassion International. Go to compassion.com/sportsspectrum.
This is Sports Spectrum, the intersection of sports and faith, where we bring Jesus back into the conversation. Here's your host, Jason Romano.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. I am Jason, and this is the Sports Spectrum podcast, and I am super excited about our guest today, John Cooper. He is the lead singer, he's a bassist, and the co-founder of the band Skillet. Now, I don't know about you, but I love Skillet. When I'm going out for a walk or a run, or I'm just trying to get fired up and energized, and I know it's going to be clean music, and the lyrics are not going to be demonizing or have a ton of swear words or curse words in it, Skillet is the band I go to. I love their music. I've seen them in person a couple of times, and they are an amazing band who put a fantastic show on. And John Cooper is the founder and lead singer, and he's going to be here today on the show to talk about the unique connection with sports and with the band Skillet. Now, John also is a fan of playing basketball and watching sports, certainly when he was younger. But Skillet's music has been featured on places like ESPN, Major League Baseball, the World Series, NFL, NHL, even the WWE. So there's a unique connection with sports and Skillet that we're going to talk about with John. And they got a brand new album out January 14th. It just released. Dominion is out now. They got their latest lyric video on YouTube, Refuge, which is a song from that new album that's on YouTube you can watch. They have a really great thing going right now with this music, and I think it's going to be the type of music when you listen to that you're just fired up over, but you're also encouraged by it. So you're going to love this conversation with John Cooper. Take a listen now. I think this is going to be one that you're going to love. Here we go. John, welcome to Sports Spectrum, man. How are you?
What's up? It's so good to be with you, having
Absolutely.
some fun.
How many sports podcasts have you been on, John? I was thinking about this. Not many?
No, I was just about to say, this is not my first that I can recall, but I can't be more than 3. It can't be.
I figured you didn't do a ton of those, but I'm a big fan of your guys' music. We were talking beforehand, and I had the chance to meet you guys, see you guys in person. I actually took my wife and daughter and saw you. I didn't tell you this before we started recording. Saw you guys touring with Third Day. This had to be 20,
oh wow,
maybe 14, 15, something like that.
That's
out in
right.
Pennsylvania, I think we went and saw you and drove and made it a road trip with the family and some friends and went out and saw you guys there. But I'm excited to have you here, man. And it's funny when I talk about going to see you guys. We had Seth Morrison on this podcast a few years ago. Seth is, of course, the lead guitarist in your band and a great guy and a huge, when I preface that word, huge sports fan. And we got to hang out with him a little bit. But I'm curious, when I was talking to him a little bit about our conversation, I'm like, what's John's sports thing? And he said he loves to play basketball. Is that still a thing? You're a hooper?
Yeah, well, yes, I am. I'm not saying I'm good. I just want to make sure I wasn't leading people astray with the word hooper. I'm like, does that mean I've got game? Anyway, yeah, actually do. I mean, when I was younger, it was music and basketball. That was my life.
Okay.
I spent a lot more time playing basketball than practicing music, but I
Yeah.
just wasn't good enough. I played. And when I say I played on my freshman high school team, I did not play. There you go. I was on the team.
You practiced?
I practiced, and it just kind of became clear to me, like, okay, I just don't have what it takes, but I do love playing basketball. And we have a joke with Seth. Every time we play horse, Seth I usually get he'll have an H, and then he beats me. And maybe as an H, maybe not.
Right.
But whenever we play 21, I usually win because apparently I play prison rules. I think I'm a lot meaner than him, is what I'm getting at.
I love it. I love it. You're the guy I didn't want to play ball with when I was younger because I get bullied on the court probably by a guy like John Cooper.
Probably so. I get a little bit untamed, let's say.
I love it. No, I want you on my team. I just don't want to play against you.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it. That's it. Now, when you were younger, you said it was basketball and it was music. Who are the heroes in your life? And it could be sports heroes. It could be musicians. Who were the heroes in your life when you were a kid?
Well, certainly. I mean, in terms of basketball, I was a huge Larry Bird fan. And that kind of tells you the era in which I was watching basketball.
That would be the same era I watched it, John.
Okay,
so
yeah.
We're the same age.
It was good. Celtics, Lakers, man, and I was all about the Celtics. And Kevin McHale. The whole roster was awesome. And then, of course, it was very popular at the time to be a Michael Jordan fan. And of course, Michael Jordan, in my view, is the GOAT. But also, I'm a contrarian, you see. And so, because everybody else liked Michael Jordan, I had to stick with Larry Bird, because I can't follow the crowd. That's not my thing. But I secretly thought Jordan was awesome.
That's amazing.
And still to this day, I know there's the whole, is King James better than Jordan? There's like this feud going on. Jordan is the GOAT, even though I don't watch a whole lot of sports these days. But anyway, I was hugely into Larry Bird. But I liked baseball as well. And I used to get the thing, I would keep score and all that kind of stuff. I was into George Brett and all that at the time. So anyway, that kind of tells you when I was really into sports. On the music side, I have a funny story. My mom was a piano teacher and a voice teacher. So I grew up with church music. My mom was always singing opera in the house, classical music, gospel hymns. But my mom believed that rock music was the worst thing that the devil ever did on the earth. I'm telling you, my mom would rather me be a murderer than a rock star. I mean, because rock stars were like Pied Pipers. They're like leading all the children to hell, and like the band Kiss. Remember the band Kiss? Of course you do.
Yeah.
My mom was like, those are Knights in Satan's Service. That she believed that Kiss was an acronym for Knights in Satan's Service, and they were leading a trail of children, like the Pied Piper, leading the candy straight into hell, into Lucifer's arms. And so I kind of grew up. I couldn't listen to anything with drums, nothing with guitars. I mean, I'm talking not even pop music, not even Amy Grant. Amy Grant was even worse, actually, because Amy Grant was a wolf in sheep's clothing. So she was worse than Kiss because she pretended to be Christian whilst leading kids into hell. That was kind of the idea. So I tell that story because it's hilarious and it's ironic that I do what I do now. But when I began listening to rock music at my friend's house when I was in, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, I mean, it's Metallica, Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, all the good stuff, and all those people. I mean, I wanted to be a rocker. I wanted to be able to sing like those people, man.
Yeah, and listen, that turned out pretty well, I think. And Skillet has been an amazing band with so much success over the years. And one of the neat things that I think about when I think about Skillet is that my former employer, ESPN, and many other sports like the NFL, the MLB, Major League Baseball, NHL, and even the WWE have used your songs in their productions. What has that been like for you to see the opportunities come the way of the band with unique places like the World Wrestling Entertainment or the NFL or even ESPN?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will say this, and this is no exaggeration. Probably the biggest way for a band to get their music out, of course, is radio. Everybody needs that radio. You need that with on the charts. They call it with a bullet. You know, you need
Yes.
number 10 with a bullet, and then you need number 5 with a bullet. It's the best way. But in reality, the biggest thing that's ever happened for Skillet has been sports. It was WWE, NFL, MLB came on the songs. And the reason that was so huge for Skillet is because we had a hard time getting in at radio. So we actually went the other way. It ended up being sports that got Skillet to be big enough that radio began to respond and play. So it was actually backwards from what it usually is. And I think that's because Skillet is sort of, we are a unique band, and we kind of make our own way, and we've done some things in some different ways. And it was the hugeness of those platforms. And so I remember the first time I heard, I heard one of my songs. I was on NFL. I was packing to go on tour, and people got to understand. So my kids were small. Everybody that has kids knows how hard having a 1-year-old is. Oh my gosh, or a 2-year-old. It's such hard work.
Yes,
You're
it is.
exhausted. I'm packing for tour, which means I'm not just packing my own stuff. We're packing baby bottles and diapers and strollers, and the TV just happened to be on, and a commercial came on for something, and it was NFL, and I remember thinking, where do I know that song from? And it was our song. It was our song, a hero. And man, I will tell you, I nearly jumped out of my skin. It was the awesomest moment. And so, yeah, we really do owe a lot to those formats. And I think that Skillet is a great band for sports. One of the reasons Skillet's a great band for sports is not, I mean, there's the obvious, it's energetic music. And our lyrics are very overcome type lyrics. Like, you can overcome whatever's in your life. And that makes great for sporting. But one of the things I frankly think is great about Skillet is we don't cuss in any of our songs. We don't sing about drugs. We don't sing about sex. We don't sing offensive things. And that used to be standard in rock music because it was a way to grab, you don't go to a Bon Jovi concert and hear John Bon Jovi say the F word 500 times because you're casting a wide net. And that has, rock music has become more about shock, more about cussing and all the songs and all that. And I think a lot of sporting things are like, hey, this is safe. Kids can hear this music. And it's fam. It's almost like a fair. It's almost like great music for fairs and family events. And that really bodes well for Skillet, and it bodes well for sports because let's face it, one of the only things you can do with your family these days that you're not going to be bombarded with that kind of stuff is sporting events. Sporting events bring together left, right, politics, religious people, not religious people, all sorts of families, no matter the color of your skin or how much money you got. Sporting events bring people together, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, concerts can do that as well often. For you, John, I wonder, when you formed Skillet, was that always this sort of plan to have it be clean, to have there be an underlying message? I say underlying. It feels like it's becoming a little less underlying now maybe than it was earlier. I could be wrong in my interpretation on some of the music that you guys have released, but was that always kind of the way that you wanted to honor God, so to speak, by the type of music that you wanted to put out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in my naivety, or as some of the philosophers say, naivete. You say, I always hear people say naivete. Anyway,
I know, it just makes you sound smarter.
Yeah, that's what I say. The scholars say it. I'm like, yeah, man. I'm like, naivety, man. Anyway, yeah, in my naivety, I think I probably didn't realize exactly how different Skillet was going to be. And that in no way is a diss on anybody else. In fact, it's meant to be the opposite, because what I'm trying to say is I didn't see myself as different than all my contemporaries. It was like, yeah, they sing about that and I sing about this. And I support them for their freedom and their right to say whatever they want to say, and I get to say it, and we're all friends. I didn't really see this major, like, we're going one way, they're going another way in the art world. I just kind of thought it's freedom of expression. And it didn't take long before I realized that we really did stand out. And now I look back at it and say, hey, that's a really good thing. Skillet's really unique, and we've been successful, 25 years of Skillet. But when you're starting out, it's not necessarily like that. The uniqueness doesn't help you because you don't belong. And, people want to play music that fits into a certain category. But yes, I wanted to honor God with art, because guess who created art? That God created it. So in a philosophical sense, all that I am is, in a certain way, as a human being, I am imitating God in a certain way. And I know that sounds kind of, you say that in all humility, but it's true. God has given humans a gift to do something like what God does, and that is create. We create something, and that makes humans unique. We create art. We get to express the things that we believe, the things that we feel, the things we hate about the world that we want different, and we get to have these messages. It's such a privilege. And so I've always seen music like that. I didn't know it was going to create such a divide, but I do remember specifically when it began to play in our favor. And it was 2010. It was after WWE had jumped on, NFL jumped on, MLB jumped on. I remember getting a call in 2000, I think it was 2011 maybe, saying, hey, it's the World Series and they want to use Hero today. Your song Hero. I was like, are you serious? And, I'm freaking out. I called my dad, Dad, we're going to be on the World Series. It was unreal. And all of a sudden, the uniqueness of the band, the things that made people think they're different, we don't really want to do it. Now, those things were becoming mainstream ideas. 2010 and 11, people wanted positive music. People, all of a sudden, we had 2 girls in the band. My wife is in the band, as you know. But back in the 90s, in early 2000s, the rock world was just like, why do you have girls in your band? That's just not rock and roll. Well, in 2010, it was like, that's so cool, girl power. All of a sudden, girls were cool. And it was cool to have a girl drummer and a girl guitar player. And now you see bands that also they specifically want to have girls in their band. We were on the front end of those things, and it took about 13 years for people to appreciate it.
Yeah, well, now they got to finally. Well, I'll tell you too, all you got to do is go to your concert and see Corey and see Jen, and they rock. They're as into it, and I watch you guys perform, and I feel like, man, you just went through a 4-quarter NFL game or something, the way you guys put all that energy into. I have to imagine you're burning tons of calories and you're sweating like crazy, and your voice, obviously you have that amazing voice, John, but it sounds like at the end when you've sung these songs with all the energy that you have, man, you gotta rest, and there's a crash probably at some point, I would imagine, after a show.
Sure. Yeah. Skillet shows are very energetic. And that's the funny thing is they are kind of athletic, actually, more than what some other, people's shows are. And people have commented on that over the years. And I used to not, again, I just was oblivious. I was like, yeah, we're performing a rock show, but I do think it's a little bit unique. We're not the only ones to perform that way, of course, but it is a unique thing. I think that's the excitement of the music. It's the adrenaline that you feel. Everybody listening to this podcast, I'm sure, has gone to the gym before, or maybe goes all the time, right?
Sure.
You go to the gym and you know that you do not want to run that mile, but as soon as you turn on AC/DC, something happens, and all of a sudden you don't notice that your back hurts. You don't notice that your knees are hurting, and you don't notice that you're like, I don't want to do this today. It's something about rock music makes you feel so energized. And so when I hit the stage and I see the fans, I don't really have to try anymore. It's just like that adrenaline kicks, and you're there for a great rock show.
Yeah, I've been to many of them. I do want to tell you a quick story, and I know our time is limited, so I want to talk about the new album Dominion as well. But I was at one of your shows, and I remember the uniqueness of your show, right? Because your music is clean, but it's hardcore, right? It's like it's energetic and it's rock. And there's a lot of fans that come to your shows. I actually remember telling you this too when I met you backstage. There's a lot of fans that come to your shows that aren't believers and that come because they just like the music. And I remember standing and watching, and it was somewhere around the middle of your show when you guys came to Connecticut that you stopped for a minute and you shared about your faith. And I don't remember the details or how long it was. I do remember, though, that you were sharing the gospel and the importance of God in your life. And I could just hear a murmur behind me. Somebody be like, all right, let's just get to the music, can we? And, you know, I'm sure there's some people who are like that, but that's actually why you do this in most of your shows, right? Because obviously God's the most important thing in your life, but there's an opportunity to talk to that person maybe that doesn't want to hear about God or has never heard about God through the opportunity that you have of your shows, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I've been to concerts before that I've loved the concerts, but I hated the minute and a half or 3 minutes where that person took the time to talk about their, you know, politics, you know, or their ideas of how great Marxism is or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, all right. I really hate that you're into you know, communism. That's not my thing. But the rest of the show was good. And I can put up with that because the art was good. They have a minute to say what the song's about, whatever. So for me, it's a little bit like if you play good music and you perform with all of your heart, as a fan of those acts, I go, hey, they've earned a few minutes. It's the same thing with actors, you know.
Absolutely.
Same thing with actors. I'm like, hey, I think that not to bring up any current events, I'm just the first person that came to my mind was Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin, I think, is a fantastic actor. I actually love his acting, but I've never seen him in an interview when I've thought that's somebody I would like to hang out with. I just don't think we get along I don't think we'd agree on anything. But he is a fantastic actor. He's earned the right for me to listen to him and see what he has to say. So I kind of treat it like that. And at the same time, I always want to make people at concerts feel like, hey, you might not agree with what I have to say about my faith in Jesus. And that's totally okay with me. I'm glad you're here. We don't have to agree because, as you said a little while ago, Jason, is that music brings people together. It's one of the only things I always say this at most of my shows. Music and sports are maybe the only two things happening in America, literally, where all kinds of people are going to be able to sit in the same venue.
Yes.
Some people vote left, some people vote right, some people are Marxist, some people are whatever, libertarian, Christian, non-Christian, atheist. I mean, even at our shows, we have people that aren't just atheists. We have people who I would call, I don't know what their name is. I call them angry atheists. It means they don't just disbelieve there's a God. They actually hate Christianity, but they kind of go, yeah, but I like Skillet's music, and I'm glad they're there. And so for me, we all get to come together. I'll share for 2 minutes about my faith in Jesus. You don't have to agree. I just want you to know why I wrote the song, and then let's play some music and let's kind of agree to disagree. I think that that's a powerful way to do things. And I think if we could see that more in America, I don't mind people saying, again, their views on whatever, as long as I don't feel like what they're saying is they hate me because I disagree. As long as you don't hate me and I can disagree, then we can still have a coffee. You know, we can have a good time. We can rock out. And that's what I hope to do with Skillet's music.
Well, your music does exactly that. And you got this new album out now, January 14th. It released just a couple days ago. It's called Dominion. Tell me about this. I listened to it yesterday. I got a preview of it and I was like, whoa, this thing is awesome. It ranges from really hard, energetic rock to sort of a ballad type music and the lower, sort of softer, not softer, but you know what I mean when I try to describe it. I think it's an amazing album, though. Tell us about Dominion.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, so the record is called Dominion. It's out. You got to go check out the record, all right? Give it a listen.
Yes.
And if you're like, I don't know if I want to spend money, then go to YouTube, watch the video, and if you dig it, then listen to it, stream it, buy it, whatever. Go on the website and buy it. The record is a bit, it's heavy. I think it's probably a bit heavier than the records we've done in the last few cycles, I've been told from people. It is aggressive. but I've been calling this record Positive Rebellion because it is a really positive record. And the reason I call it that is because we have a lot to be rebellious about right now. This has been a hard couple of years. We are fighting this internal battle of fear. I mean, I'm sure everybody's aware of the suicide rates that have skyrocketed in America. We're all reading the same reports, or we all know people that are struggling with suicidal thoughts, especially amongst teenage girls. I think it's 51% increase amongst teenage girls. It's
terrible.
Absolutely sad. Depression. People are scared because they've lost their jobs. They don't know they're going to feed their family. That is all the internal stuff happening. And I will just say this, what I think is more dangerous and darker than the pandemic is what I've been calling a pandemic of fear. You can't do anything about the pandemic. It's here. You can't, there are things in life you can't change, but you can change the things inside. It is that fear that locks you up, that makes you feel hopeless, makes you feel helpless, that I can't live my life because of this and this. I know people like that. I'm sure you've known people like that. And a lot of them have ended up falling into alcoholism or falling back into alcoholism, people that have been sober for 10 years and they don't know how to handle it. So there's that. And then there's the external forces. And that's why I call it a positive rebellion. There's external things constantly. Every day we turn the news on. And I just feel that every day is like a battle. Every day I have a decision to make. Am I going to give in to all that fear, or am I going to trust in God? And am I going to trust in his love, trust that God holds the future and that he's going to take care of me and I'm going to make it through? And that's the kind of rebellion. It's rebelling against those negative forces in your life. Sometimes we may call that sin, the flesh, or just depression, anxiety, name it. So this record, I think, will give you some inspiration, not just in the gym, but inspiration in that mind battle. That's what I hope anyway.
That's what I took away from it. And I mean, you talk about positive rebellion because it does touch on some heavy issues, but at the same time, it's positive. Like it's bringing light. It's not bringing darkness. It's bringing encouragement and not discouragement. When I listen to so many of the songs that you guys have on this new record, Dominion, it's out now. Congratulations on it, John. Last question, real quick. And it might not be a real quick answer. So I'll let you answer it based upon the time that you have. But the question is one we always ask our guests here on Sports Spectrum. What's God teaching you right now? What are you learning from him? It may come into the play with what, you just mentioned with this new record with Dominion, but what's the lesson when you think about all that God is teaching you right now? What's he showing you?
Here's what I would say. If I could give any overarching message for the last 2 years, that God has been ramping up and it started as a seed and it's growing and growing and growing and growing. And it's all over this album, which is part of the reason I called the record Dominion. All over the record is that I think that the church, all of us, this is me too. So all of us, I'm not pointing at anybody else. I think that we haven't done a great job of teaching a biblical worldview for life, almost like a cultural worldview for life. And part of that worldview would be this, that if we don't teach Christian ethics and we don't teach Christian, when I say ethics, what I mean is morality, but not just morality for my personal life, but morality for the culture, for the civil government, for the civil authorities. If we don't teach that, then the civil government is going to get overtaken with another worldview. And I think that's why, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think that's why we're at the place we're at right now. I think that a lot of us in Christianity, we felt that culture is like a neutral platform, that we shouldn't be telling people about Jesus in that platform because it's mean or judgmental or this, that, the other. And what we are experiencing now, this is what happens when we don't teach Jesus in that arena, is it gets overtaken with a whole nother worldview. And that is the reason that in America, we are arguing now on, do I have the right to teach my child how to live? Or does the government, does the state have the right to say, no, this is what you must teach your kids? So all the things we see on TV, about the government raising the kids versus the parent raising the kids. Christianity, the Bible has an answer for that. We just haven't taught it in about 70 years. And so I think we need a reformation in the church of what the civil government is supposed to be. The civil government is supposed to be a servant of God, according to Romans 13. The civil government is supposed to be a servant of God to be the sword against the wicked doer. It is supposed to punish the wicked and repay the good with good. And so the civil government doesn't belong to the devil or something like that. It's not neutral. It's not just man's ideas. It's supposed to be a servant of God, and we haven't treated it as such. And so therefore it is overrun by the secular world, and Christianity is going to suffer for that loss in a great way, which is why there's such an attack against Christianity now. So God has been speaking to me about that. I've been reading a lot about it. And now that every time I read my Bible, that's what I see. That is also what dominion is about. And I'll end with this. The scripture is found in Daniel. Book of Daniel, it says, talking about Jesus, says his dominion will be an everlasting dominion. It is the fact that Jesus actually owns the earth. The devil does not own the earth. This is his dominion. So it's kind of a celebration of true liberty underneath the lordship of Christ.
That's really well said. He is John Cooper. And again, Skillet is the band. The new album, Dominion, is out now, released back on January 14th. And you also do a Cooper Stuff podcast, which I know I've listened to your podcast. And I think people need to go check that out because you expand a lot on what your last answer there talked about and tackle some pretty tough issues. And you're not afraid to go there on a lot of your podcasts that I've listened to. So just appreciate you, John. Thanks for being here. Congrats on the new album and all the best to you and to the band Skillet.
Thank you so much. I sure loved it. Thanks everybody for listening.
And super thankful to John Cooper for being here today on Sports Spectrum from the band Skillet. I'm a huge fan of Skillet's music. I've got to see him in concert a couple times, and now we get to listen to some new music by them. Back in January 14th, they released their new album, Dominion. So go listen to it wherever you listen to music. Check it out. And I think you'll be encouraged by it. It may not be your type of music for every song because some of it's pretty hard and heavy, and some of it's a lot less heavy, but it's still a great sound. And their music is so encouraging, I think, when you really listen to the lyrics and what they're talking about. So check out Skillet's new album, Dominion, available now everywhere music is found. And again, thanks to John Cooper for being here today on Sports Spectrum. We thank you as well for listening and for tuning in to today's show. A couple things before we say goodbye. First, want to remind you to check out our website, sportsspectrum.com. That's our home base for all of our content, devotionals, podcasts, articles, all free, all available on the intersection of Jesus and sports and faith. Check it out at sportsspectrum.com. And then the 52-week Increase devotional is the perfect gift for you as you begin your 2022 year and growing closer to God. Check out the 52-week devotional available at theincrease.com. It's a 52-week Increase devotional, and it's available at theincrease.com. He must increase, we must decrease. John 3:30, that's the motto. That's the verse that we stand on and that we cling to with this ministry of Sports Spectrum. And it's a great reminder for all of us to increase in Christ and to decrease in self. And lastly, before we say goodbye, please do click that subscribe or like button on the podcast app that you're listening to so that you never miss an episode of Sports Spectrum's podcast. Again, subscribe or like or follow, whatever that button is on your podcast app, click it so that you don't miss any more of what we're offering here each week at Sports Spectrum. Thanks, guys, for tuning in to our conversation today with John Cooper, and we hope you'll join us next time right here on Sports Spectrum. Have a great rest of your day.